First up, my exclusive interview with President Donald Trump this morning. We begin with his thoughts on coronavirus taking hold inside the White House. How are you doing? I know that coronavirus has hit here as well. How are you doing, your team, your inside team?
Well, we're doing well. It's very sad what's happened to the world and to our country with all of the death. We are going to build our economy back bigger than ever, but with all of that death, you can never replace what's taken. And it's very sad for a lot of families that are so horribly hit and so unnecessary. They could have stopped it. They could have stopped it in China where it came from, but didn't happen that way.
I want to ask you about China. I'll get to that. But let's talk about the reopening of America right now. About half of the states have begun this process.
Right.
Is it too soon? There are some calls out there that they're talking about a relapse in the fall. Is it too soon?
So I want them to open when they can, when they want. The governors are opening them. Most of them are either opened or opening or considering it. I think that we have to get back to work. We have to get our country back. We have to take it back. It was artificially closed. I think we're doing incredibly well considering the fact that we had the greatest economy, Maria, in history. You report it every morning. The greatest that anyone's ever seen, best job numbers, best stock market numbers, best everything. We had the best everything. And in addition to military being strong, all of the things we've done, and we had to just one day, boom, close it. We did the right thing, and now we got to get back. We got to bring our country back, and it's going to happen, and it's going to happen fast. I call it a transition to greatness. You're going to have the third quarter. People are starting to get into that right now, but it's going to be a transition. That's a transition quarter. We're going to do well in the fourth quarter, and I think next year, with all of the stimulus, all of the things we've done, I think we're going to have one of the best economic years we've ever had.
Dr. Fauci is saying a different thing. He says he's worried about spikes turning into outbreaks. He said it seems like it could be too soon, and that the major message he wants to convey is that the danger is if we skip over the checkpoints and the guidelines to open America again, then we risk the danger of multiple outbreaks.
So Anthony is a good person, very good person. I've disagreed with him. When I closed the border to China, he disagreed with that, and then ultimately he agreed, and he said I saved hundreds of thousands of lives, which is what happened. Everybody disagreed when I did that. I think that we have to open our schools. Young people are very little affected by this. We have to get the schools open. We have to get our country open. We have to open our country. Now, we want to do it safely, but we also want to do it as quickly as possible. We can't keep going on like this. I mean, you're having bedlam already in the streets. You can't do this. We have to get it open. I totally disagree with him on schools, and we will have. I call them embers. I call them spikes, and I noticed he used the word spike. Well, you might have that, and we'll put it out. We've learned a lot. We didn't know anything about this. This is a horrible disease. This is a horrible plague. I call it a plague. It's a terrible thing. We've learned a lot, and we also know how to put it out, but we have to open our country. We have no choice. People are dying this way too. When you report this better than I could ever report it, but people are they're dying with this closure, with the shutdown of a country where they're in their house or in their apartment. They're not allowed. Some people are too tough on it. They're not allowed to go out. They're losing their jobs. We're not going to let it happen.
Do you think your critics want you to keep it closed going into the election?
Yeah, I do. I think it's a political thing in addition. I think
because they're saying you're putting money, business ahead of lives.
No. I think the people that want to see the right thing happen, they agree with me. We have to get our country open. If it was up to some people, let's keep it closed for a long time, okay? A long time, and watch the United States go down the tubes. Not going to happen. Never going to happen on my watch.
I want to ask you, do you see long-term damage done the longer that you stay closed? Because Jay Powell said that as well, that there is a long-term impact the longer it stays closed.
Yeah. So what I do see is this. I see we're losing a tremendous number of lives. So is the world. The world, one of 184 countries, it's now more than that. Think of it. but tremendous lives lost. So that can never, when you talk about damage, that can never be replaced. We're going to lose over 100,000 perhaps in this country. Now, in all fairness, that's at the bottom level of the scale. We would have lost 2 million. We would have lost more if we did it a different way. But you're talking about 100,000 more, a little bit less, more? Who knows? It's a terrible thing. No, so that can't be replaced. We're spending trillions of dollars on all of the damage economically, financially that it's caused. So it is a terrible thing. It's just an incredible thing. We were sailing. 2 months ago, we were sailing. We were going. We had the best of everything.
It was the best unemployment situation in my lifetime, certainly. And now we're talking about 33 million people filing for unemployment, even after $10 trillion in stimulus.
That's all going to come back.
Bankruptcies.
The lives won't come back. That's all going to come back. It's going to come back fast. Now, with that, we're spending money. We're borrowing money. We're spending money. All of that stuff is bad. But all of that's going to work out. That's going to all come back. We have a strong dollar. We have a great country. The people want to go back to work, and they don't want to lose their jobs, by the way.
So you want a strong dollar? Because in the past you said
I'll tell you what, it's a great time to have a strong dollar, because the whole world, we're paying 0 interest rate. That's never happened either. We're paying so low. Everybody wants to be in the dollar because we kept it strong. I kept it strong. Now, from a trade standpoint, it's tougher. But from a country standpoint and an inflation standpoint, you don't have inflation, you don't have problems. No, we have a strong dollar, and right now it's good to have a strong dollar.
Mr. President,
and I can live both ways, you understand that. But right now, having a strong dollar is a great thing.
What's the right mix of policies to get us back? You had a policy program in 2017, and you moved the needle on economic growth. That was tax cuts, that was deregulation, that was turning on the energy spigot, and it was a new trade situation. Is it the same playbook to get us back?
So we're going to have maybe a different playbook, stronger than I would have ever said. I was very much a pro-USA person. I was America first, right? Always. You've known me ever since you've known me, and I was right about that. Strong borders. Our border is very strong. We have some of the best numbers we've ever had. Southern border, the best numbers we've ever had.
This is what you campaigned on.
I did, and we've now built 182 miles of wall. You know what that is? 182 miles. We'll be at close to 500 miles by early next year.
Of new wall.
Brand new, all brand new, and renovated too, but I'm not even talking about that. We're talking about over 500 miles of wall, and we have, you have to understand, I had a party totally, they want open borders, they want people pouring in, and even they don't mention it. You notice I have all the financing. They didn't even bother with it at the end, because I turned out to be right. They didn't want to be the party that was opposed to having walls and having strong borders. But they are. They want open borders. They want people pouring into our country. And now they look at it, they say they pour in. Do they have COVID-19? What's the problem? What problem do they have, okay? And so they want to stay away from that subject. But when you think of what we've done, but I was always America first, make America great again, right? And basically it's that, but it's that plus, because a lot of people fought me on China. You hear all that honking, you know what that is? That's trucks. They love their president.
Trucking protesters, right?
Well, they're not protesters, they're supporters of me, because we're getting things for the truckers and all those great truckers that are all over the country.
They want the economy.
And they're honky, and they're really very thankful that I'm president, frankly. So when I hear the horns, there's 1,000 trucks outside. It's great. So what we're doing is what I was doing before, but even more so. And I'm even, stronger about it. America first. China, I made a great trade deal. The ink wasn't dry when the plague came over from China, but the ink wasn't even dry.
They didn't tell you about it when they came here on the 15th of January and shook everybody's
That
hands.
was never even a subject. That was not anything that anybody really understood or knew about at the time. But China, I'm very disappointed in China. I will tell you that right now.
I have a lot of questions on China.
We can do things in our country. We can, we used to make our own product. Would you believe it, right? We used to make our own product. We don't need 37 pencils. We can buy 2 pencils, and they can be better. But, we went astray. The whole thing, we went astray. I've been talking about this for 20 years. Probably it's the number one reason I ran for president. because I saw that our car industry is leaving, going to Mexico. You know, Mexico makes 30% of our cars. It's not even believable.
Well,
and Canada makes a lot of our cars.
Businesses wanted cheap labor, but they also wanted lax environmental rules.
See, the cheap labor turned out to be very expensive because when you add what this is costing, you just take a look at what's happening. And when you add what's costing by us with our drugs, our pharmaceutical products, so many different
Minerals.
things. So I put tariffs on China, and we've taken in tens of billions of dollars. I gave a lot of that money to the farmers because they were targeted by China. And every other president let China do whatever they wanted. You know, we were losing anywhere from $200 billion to $500 billion to China a year. Think of it. We rebuilt China, and I give them a lot of credit. But I don't give our past presidents and leaders a lot of credit because they got taken to the cleaners. And worst of all was the last 8 years under President Obama and Biden. His son gets $1.5 billion, and then they're supposed to be tough on China. Doesn't work that way.
He traveled on Air Force too.
Yeah,
with
he used
then
his
Vice
father.
President
His
Joe
father
Biden.
got him to hundreds. Look. It's impossible to do what he did. If you talk to Steve Schwarzman, and I asked him, I said, Steve, is something like that possible? He said,
to get that kind of money.
He said, it's impossible. You can't get that money. He said, this guy had no experience. He didn't even have a job. And he walked out of China with $1.5 billion to invest for them, of which he makes hundreds of thousands and actually millions of dollars. What is this?
So how do you get us back? When you look at these numbers, we're going to be going into the election with a double-digit unemployment rate. I mean, could we get below 10% by September on unemployment?
No, but
and what are your
by
policies
next year,
to get
I
us
think
back?
we're going to be very, very strong again. We have tremendous powers that other people don't have. We have tremendous job capacity, and I think what's going to happen is next year is going to be one of our best years. I feel that we will transition in this third quarter. Fourth quarter is going to be good. Next year is going to be incredible.
Are there industries that you're thinking of that will lead us out of there, that are more poised to open and have economic activity than others? And what about states? Are there states out there that have become a model for you? I know Georgia did well, Florida as well, in terms of their openings. What can you tell us about the openings so far?
But don't forget, those states, none of them would have done well without what we did in the federal government, because we became the ventilator maker of the world. I mean, we are now doing things with ventilators that nobody thought possible. When we took over, we didn't have ventilators. Nobody knew what a ventilator was. We're making thousands of ventilators now a week. And also, by the way, everybody's got ventilators. We're giving them now and selling them to other countries who desperately need them. Other countries are calling up. They desperately need them. We're the testing capital. You see the numbers. I mean, you've seen this before. But this is us in the blue.
You're up to 10 million.
Now look at this, over 10 million tests.
Can we get to a place where the White House is in corporate America, where every time you go to work, you just get your temperature taken, you get a test? Is that where we're going?
You don't want to be doing that. Look, we want to go back to, like, you want to see a baseball game, or you want to see a basketball or football, you want to walk into a stadium. I went to the Alabama LSU game last year. They had 110,000 people in the stadium. I don't want to see 25,000 people where you have empty seats all over the place
when
because of
distance. When do you think we could get back to that, Mr. President? How long is this going to take to get back to normalcy?
Yeah, I think we're going to have a vaccine by the end of the year. We're doing very well with the vaccine. And I will tell you something. I just literally left a meeting. We're mobilizing our military and other forces, but we're mobilizing our military on the basis that we do have a vaccine. You know, it's a massive job to give this vaccine. Our military is now being mobilized, so at the end of the year, we're going to be able to give it to a lot of people very, very rapidly.
And you're just doing something with syringes as well, so that you can have it plentiful.
That's
right. You have enough vaccine.
We will have the tremendous force, because assuming we get it, then you have to distribute it.
Right.
And unless you're mobilized and ready, you're not going to be able to do it for a long time. So we're starting now. We're of the assumption that by the end of the year, we're going to have a vaccine, and then we have to be able to give it, to use it on most of our population.
Yeah.
Now we'll focus on elderly. We're going to focus on nursing home and senior citizen centers. Because that's really, if you look at it, that is a very vulnerable group. It's a terrible thing But so we're going to be focused on that. We're going to go.
Can you divide the country saying, okay, if you're below 50, you're healthy and strong, you're okay, go back to work. Elderly, divide them.
Well, we're doing that, and I'm actually saying, like with the schools, open the schools. But if a teacher is 65 or older, especially if they have diabetes, if they have a bad heart, if they have a problem, we say relax for a longer period of time. But if you look, there's been very little damage done to people that are healthy and young and, frankly, medium-aged people. But the elderly have been decimated, absolutely.
Let me get back to getting us back to where we were. Nancy Pelosi has a stimulus package now. We know that it is $3 trillion. Kevin McCarthy's been tweeting about this, and apparently it includes diversity provisions for the marijuana business. It includes tax breaks for blue state donors, federal election takeover that mandates mail-in voting. What is your take on proxy votes and mail-in voting? This is part of the Speaker's stimulus package.
So she knows it's dead on arrival. We had a very interesting evening last night, as you know. In Wisconsin, we won very, very by a lot. And this is not a primary, this is an election. It was a special election. We won I'm running against Sleepy Joe Biden, but I'm also running against the Democrat machine, and I'm running, and you see how bad they are with all of the things that are coming out. When you look at these releases that are just being given to you just now as we sit down. But I'm running against the Democrats, and I'm running against the media. I'm running against the radical left. I'm running against some really stupid Republicans that don't understand how good they had it, because we have some I'm at 95 or 96% with the Republican Party, but we have some people that claim to be Republicans, and they've got.
Yeah, you know, we love science. We're all about science. And today we had a whole bunch of emails and phone calls. People waking up this morning, looking off in the eastern sky and seeing what looks like. You see, that's what I'm talking about. They get like a big hole in the sky. So there's got to be an explanation, because that type of sky is not going to occur by itself. So there has to be some sort of factor coming into play. That's going to cause there's another view of it. And on the last one, I'm going to try to explain actually what happened today. And let's move along to the last picture. We kind of zoom in. Now, these clouds here are called cirrocumulus clouds. Cirrocumulus clouds, they are generated by what we call supercooled water. That's water below 32 that hasn't turned into ice. And that can happen. What you need is a particle, or what we call a nuclei, for this water to turn into ice.
Doesn't explain that it's summertime. It looks like I see palm trees in the background. Doesn't explain that these clouds are new to us over the last 15 to 20 years. They only started telling you about them in the school system about 10 years ago. Were never here before. Hundreds of years, thousands of years. Nobody ever seen them. Now all of a sudden they're here and they're naming them, and it's false reality.
So what happened today is a plane moved through that cloud bank, and the exhaust from the plane actually provided that little particle or nuclei to turn this water into ice. And this in the middle is actually ice crystals, or cirrus clouds. Again, plane flying through the exhaust, kind of cleaning it out and turning these water droplets into ice. Did I explain that okay?
Yes. We got it.
It was a along to the road. A South Carolina man couldn't believe his eyes when he looked up and he saw an angel.
Yes. This cloud in the sky. Is that not an angel?
Corey Durant took out his phone.
I'm going to put a filter on. Red filter.
Doing what we do right here on O Block in Chicago, then we should be able to maybe question what others are doing as well. And the one question that stands out in my mind that I woke up thinking about is, what has Black Lives Matter done for our community? What's up, everybody? What's up? Listen, I am Pastor Corey Brooks from the south side of Chicago, right here on O Block. O named after a young man named O.D. Perry who was shot and killed. We decided we're going to keep every day to bring to you rooftop revelations. Today I have with me two brothers who I admire so greatly, and we're going to jump right in. They can tell you their names, and matter of fact, please tell me now real quick.
Sadi Washington, CEO of the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. Darwin Giles, former ethnic vice chair of the Michigan Republican Party.
Two of these brothers, listen, I'm going to jump right in because what I'm going to talk about is so hot. It's a little touch. It's a little touch. So there are a lot of people who see all of this money given specifically to Black Lives Matter. And I know if I've been questioned about my not-for-profit, doing what we do right here on O Block in Chicago, then we should be able to maybe question what others are doing as well. And the one question that stands out in my mind that I woke up thinking about is what has Black Lives Matter done for our community, from your perspective?
Well, let's see. If I clock it from when they began, 2013 to now, you could use the issue of bringing some awareness to some of these very high-profile situations like in Ferguson, that type of thing. But as a whole, my answer to that question is not very much. Not only that, there's been some detriment where the Black community is concerned. There's lots of different reasons. A couple of them, you touched on one, Pastor Brooks, money. Some $50 million in Ferguson back in 2014, some $90 million in 2020. But as you said, how does that positively impact the Black community on the ground, like O Block, for example, right? And then also, I would say, again, as a one who represents a Black Israel Zionist organization, the demonization of Israel, not only has nothing to do with what's going on in like a Ferguson or Chicago or Oakland or anything like that, but actually is exploiting the pain and the situations that are going on. So in other words, I'm not fixing, trying to help O Block. Let me use O Block for this prop over here. That's beyond. That's heinous. That's right. You're using your profit off of the pain of other people. So my answer to that question, not very much happening now for Black community. Yes, you
answer that very well. Let me ask you another question.
Yes, sir.
Do you feel like Black Lives Matter has used the Black community and given us nothing in return? From your perspective, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I know how I feel about it.
Correct.
But do you think they've used the Black community?
I would like to say that I believe there are individuals who are very honest in their intentions, who are at heart because yes, they want to stand in solidarity with the Black community. But if, just as my brother's keeper, we're O Block. This is technically former President Obama's, hometown. A slogan is good, but where's the results? That's all I ask. Where's the results? Okay, what have you really impacted? What actually crisis issues have you helped solve? And to me, those are just honest questions. So when it comes down to it, I believe that far as the establishment needs to be held accountable. And I'm going to say this, because they said and talked a good game, but where's the results? And I think for Black people, we demand not only justice, but accountability for people who have used our struggle and our pain to profit and gain and politicize, but they're not helping criminal justice reform. They're not helping attack the issues of mass incarceration, the illiteracy issues in California. We need real justice for us and accountability.
You know what? I heard a statement that I'm going to just ride for just a second. Shelby Steele, who is well respected, who also has written and talked about many issues that we talk about today. He said that Black Lives Matters sells a brand of innocence, and they sell that brand of innocence to whites. And I thought about, wow, if they're selling a brand of innocence to whites, then what am I selling? What is Project Hood selling? And I thought about that, and I thought, well, we sell hard work. We sell that the individual has to take responsibility and accountability for their life. We sell that racism is not the biggest problem that we face. We sell that capitalism is extremely important for us getting out of poverty.
Correct.
That's what we sell. Which rap, which brand do you think is more effective for what we're doing and needing in our community today?
Well, clearly it's the one that you just underscored at the end, Pastor Brooks, that independent, that entrepreneurial one, right? That industrial one. But not only is that the case, now that has always been the case, right? When you're talking about post-slavery America and the people like the giants like Booker T. Washington, right, who preached the exact same thing, right? We talked about some of those quotes over 100 years ago, and he's talking about the independence, the building of businesses, again, as we talked about before, the whole issue of the concept of Black Wall Street. He's the one who coined the term Negro Wall Street, right? And that not just the mindset, but the actual these businesses and everything that came about. So I believe that it's been very clear. History has taught us that more so than political power is fine to have. But what we found is what's even more powerful is the capital, is the economic power, right? Because economic power can dictate political power, right? But you can have political power and have no economic power, and you get vacuums in situations like we see all over the country, right? Where politics issues, politics. But what's happening on the ground, other than these positions that are being held, what's happening in our schools, what's happening with our businesses, and that type of thing. So I believe that second part is the most important. That's the books, that hard work. What Project Hood is, that's the part that's the most important part.
So I'm gonna give you a real live example. One of my supporters actually just mentioned this to me concerning student loan debt. Okay, now there's a proposal to eliminate a certain amount of student loan debt, and I understand and I support that. But what is better, you having the economics, a high wage, and you having a real good paying job, or you being able to have enough money to not only pay off your own debt, but start a business and invest, and you own and take full authority and control over your destiny and your own fortitude, or just basically let the government give you something that's going to cancel your debt, but never actually put you in a position to give you free market enterprise solutions. I believe in capitalism with ethics, and it's been proven globally that capitalism increases your wealth capacity, and so it helps you eliminate poverty. So I believe in having a strong economy, being able to have high wages to pay off your debts. You got enough money, you can pay off your own student loans. I know people who do it. Okay, so without that, we have a serious problem.
You know, listen, the truth of the matter is this, from where I understand it. There's a brain that tries to make white people feel guilty, trying to make them feel as if they need to support something so that they don't feel like they are racist. I'm gonna tell you right off the bat, that's not my brain. I'm not trying to get white people to support what we do or conservatives to support what we do, because I think all white people are guilty and I think all white people are racist and I think every system in America is racist. I do not believe that. I do not buy that. I have a brand that says this. I believe capitalism works. I believe individual responsibility works. I believe the dignity for having work works. I believe that government will never solve our problems and come in and save us. I believe that. And I'm asking people, hey, just support this brand. Support me being on this roof for 100 days, trying to make attention and awareness to violence. Support me building this community center so that we can take responsibility to help these young people transform their lives and transform this community. That's the brand I'm selling. Well, that's just my rooftop revelations. Until tomorrow, peace.
Say, you know what? The hood needs me. My neighborhood needs me. There are some young boys that need positive mentors. What's up, everybody? I'm still here. Can you believe it? I am still here on this rooftop. That's right. My name is Pastor Corey Brooks, and I'm living in this tent for 100 days from November the 20th to February 28th, bring awareness to the violence in Chicago. But not just bring awareness to the violence in Chicago, but raise money
to build a community center on this block that's called O Block. O because it's named after a young man named O.D. Perry who was shot and killed. The gangs picked up his name, the letter O in his name, and started calling it O Block. We decided we're going to keep the O for Opportunity Block. We're about making opportunities. And today, I'm like really excited to have with us a young man who is now part of our staff, but it's his story that I want you to hear about and his commitment to what he's doing now. Today, I have with me Brian Alexander. Brian, how you doing? I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me. So, Brian, let's jump right in because we don't have a lot of time. How did you get here? I mean, how did you get here tonight?
Yeah, so Pastor Brooks actually been on pastor since I was about 12 or so years old. When Little Gigs was actually still inside of a school auditorium. We were sharing space in there in Bloomington down 35th Street. So I spent some of my very, very formative years here growing up in the church, growing up in this community as well as we transitioned to our new site here on King Drive. So I took some time and went away to school and spent some time at Howard University in Washington, D.C., where I had a chance to study political science and then go on to go to law school and kind of spent a lot of time really in that race, chasing the things that people chase in those sorts of circles. And honestly, long story short, once COVID hit and had a chance to really kind of sit down and evaluate my life, and being in DC, you really think that machine needs you to run, and everyone thinks so much of themselves. But I really began to realize that that my heart was really very much empty because I wasn't able to give back in the way that I really want to. I saw in the media how Chicago was really being portrayed. People were drawn to me because I was from Chicago, but not necessarily because of me, but because of the things that they saw and they associated with Chicago, the things that the media had associated with Chicago. And it was just really, really important to me to not waste another day of my life and of my gifts that I have as well. So after COVID was over, I came back in March and started to volunteer here. I really felt like there was no better place for me to be and to have immediate impact rather than here at Project Hood. And the rest is pretty much
history. You know what? I want to say something because here's a success story. Here's a young man who's been with us since he was 12. How old are you now?
35.
So he's 35 now. So here's a young man who's been with us for a long time. And you grew up in the hood. Not only did you grow up in the hood, but you went to school, educated yourself, got a law degree, and you worked in D.C., but realized it wasn't fulfilling. And being involved in government isn't always the most fulfilling thing. Yeah. And you decided to come back and work in the hood. Why come back and work in the hood? Why is that so important?
Yeah, because exposure is really everything, man. If it were not for the individuals who were in my life that were in the church and just hanging around, they really enabled me to really see that there was more out there for myself and more in me as well. And I really do believe that you can't be what you can't see. So it's important for me to come back and really just be the best version of myself that I could possibly be, because I know there are so many young people who are watching, so many folks, so many ways in which that we get to interact and positively affect the lives of those who are in this community, as well, and honestly just to come back and just love on my community, right? To be an example of someone coming back to where they're from and not leaving where they're from and investing in it and sticking with it in order to see it become what you know that it can be and be, and really help to deliver a life and a community that these residents really do truly deserve.
You know what? And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take some people coming back home to the community. It's going to take people who have achieved educationally, maybe professionally, who make a conscious decision to say, you know what? The hood needs me. My neighborhood needs me. There are some young boys that need positive mentors. And so we want to encourage all of you who are educated and professional, man, please come back home, help us in this endeavor, to transform a neighborhood, because that's what it's really all about. Brian, thank you for being part of Project Hood and helping to run our organization. Thank you for being back, and thank you for being a positive example.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank y'all for joining Rooftop Revelations. And gone, having been killed by gun violence. You gotta raise these two little girls on your own. How did you What's up, everybody? My name is Pastor Corey Brooks, and you got it. I'm still here. Can you believe it? On this rooftop, living in this tent behind me for 100 days. From November the 20th to February 28th, I'm bringing awareness of the gun violence that we deal with in Chicago every single day. But I'm also trying to raise as much money as possible to build a community center in a much-needed neighborhood. This neighborhood that we call O Block. O, I say, is for opportunity. The gang say it's for a young man who was shot and killed named O.D. Perry. But we're turning this into a place of opportunity because that's what we need in our neighborhood. And today, I am like super excited to have with me a young sister who, if there's anyone epitomizes making it through heartaches, hardships, and struggle, it's Sequina Willis. Sequina, thank you for coming to our Rooftop Revelation.
Thank you for having me.
Listen, I want to jump right in. I know your story, and it's amazing, first of all. But I want our listeners to hear, because I need them to understand the difficulties and the trials that some young girls go through. Not just our boys, but our girls when it comes to gun violence. Can you tell us, how did you end up in a group home?
Well, my mom was murdered by her boyfriend when I was 14. And I ended up living with family. I was going down the wrong path a little bit. I wound up pregnant at 15. Had my daughter at 16, and I ended right back up in the group homes again.
And then you had another daughter at what age?
21.
So 21. So here you are, two little girls. Your mom is gone, having been killed by gun violence. You got to raise these two little girls on your own. How did you get through that? How did you navigate through that? What happened?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess seeing things, going through things and seeing things and different paths that people take as far as my family's concerned, friends and things like that. I just knew I didn't want that to be me. Or I didn't want my daughters to grow up and just have a peeled out mother, or, because a lot of these young women, they lose their way and they don't know how to be a mother. They don't know how to be a parent, so they just give their kids away. And I didn't want to be that parent because I kind of struggled like that growing up as well, being a young girl.
Because you could have easily made an excuse and said, well, my mom was in this situation and this happened and I had baby, and you could have made all kinds of excuses, right?
Exactly.
But you didn't.
No.
And matter of fact, you have done so well that you went to school and now what are you doing right now?
I was a CNA for 7 years. I'm actually a patient care technician. I kind of basically just shifted my way into the security field back in 2018. I do armed and unarmed security. I now work at a children's hospital as a security officer. But I really inspire. I flipped because I inspired to be about this moment.
Hold on. You grew up in all that stuff and on the south side of Chicago, and you want to be the police?
Yeah. What's that?
Why do you want to be a police officer?
Because I feel like you're not going to know how to relate to nobody out here unless you actually been out here in these streets and you really walk these streets and you really went through what's going on out here. You got to relate. You have to.
So have you taken the test yet?
Yes, twice.
All right, then we believe you're going to pass it, right?
Yes.
All right. So look, I love you. I believe in you. You epitomize what we're trying to do with the sisters in our neighborhood. Just because you make a mistake or just because some stuff happened to you in your past, you can still be successful. You can still make it, and you can achieve all your dreams. And I believe you're going to be one of the best police officers that we've had in our neighborhood in a long time. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Listen, it's been great. As always, shouts out to my Fox family for giving me this platform. talk about issues and solutions and all the things that we're concerned about on the south side of Chicago, things that hopefully will make us better. I'll see you tomorrow, and until then, peace. There's so many things I'm going to bring to your attention that you may not be aware of. So I want you to take the journey with me, with Project Good, on this tent for 100 days with Fox News every single day.
The Raging Cajun on fire. Longtime Democratic strategist James Carville scolding Democrats for not pumping up the Biden administration's policy wins.
Joining us live is Fox News contributor Joe Concha. Okay, Joe, he went on to say he was scolding his party for complaining about its shortcomings rather than basking in its achievements. So, first off, what achievements is he talking about? And second off, do you think they're the whiny party?
Yeah. And third off, who's dressing James Carville these days? Look, he's right about the whiny part. The green, orange, purple, I don't know what's going on there. But look, give me the bacon without the sizzle, right? The premise of Carville's advice is understood, but the facts don't support the argument. He said the party should tout policy victories, but what policy victories? Outside of the bipartisan infrastructure bill, not much has been done, and people aren't feeling that infrastructure bill because by the time you break ground or you fix all these bridges, and no one's really going to feel that probably for years, but inflation's at a 40-year high, supply chain isn't fixed, there's still a worker shortage, 16 cities did set homicide records last year, the border still is essentially wide open, and Democrats failed to deliver to its far-left base, Build Back Better, a massive government expansion, federalizing voting rights. So right now, Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi's approval is currently at 33% for a reason. To put lipstick on a pig will appear to be tone deaf to the American people if you start talking about how great things are going, because they ain't going great.
Joe, apparently the no whining message didn't reach all the members of the Clinton administration alumni. Former White House press secretary Joe Lockhart, weighing in on another network, had this to say. Listen.
So I think the press is failing. They're treating them unfairly. First off, there ought to have been a dividend for returning truth and decency to the White House. And we didn't get that. We didn't get it at all. We've kind of returned to the snarky attitude that we saw with Trump.
Joe, is the media treating Biden unfairly?
Has Joe Lockhart ever met Joe Lockhart's Twitter feed? Because it's as toxic and snarky as it gets. And to say that the president's being treated unfairly, no, we just listed the record. The record is the record. The polling is the polling. And to say he's being treated unfairly, he's been treated hospitable in terms of those terms, not hostile. And again, there's this perception of Joe Biden, not just the things we talk about in terms of things he's failing on, that he's too old, he's too detached, and he's too incompetent. It's real when you look at the polling. By the way, this is the same show that called Michael Avenatti a serious presidential contender and said that Donald Trump killed more people than Hitler, Stalin, and Mao combined. Therefore, it should not be taken seriously, and it's why so few watch when you use Joe Lockhart, of all people, as a reliable source.
And Joe, I want to get to this. I actually had to do a double and even a triple take on this when that Los Angeles, the LA Times columnist, doubled down on mocking deaths of the unvaccinated. Like I said, this is just kind of shocking. You don't expect people to actually come out and say something like this. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's a racist argument, mocking the unvaccinated, because when you look at vaccination rates along racial lines, African Americans, that community, they're the least vaccinated, and I think it's supposed to be this own on, I guess, Trump supporters, but you look at the numbers, and I don't think these columnists realize who they are insulting in the most, just disgusting of terms. And we've seen this movie before, by the way. When Florida had a spike in deaths last year, Jimmy Kimmel goes on a show and he mocked those who died because, they were unvaccinated, and, it was in Florida. It's Ron DeSantis. Hey, it's a good way to hit him now. Who does this when people die in such horrible ways? And by the way, Kimmel didn't do the same when there were spikes in New York and California, nor should he have. And it shows you just what a political football COVID has become, particularly for those on on the left, and it's just revolting. We even saw a column, right, saying that the National Guard should be called in to keep the unvaccinated in their homes. I mean, what is going on?
All right, Joe, I'm going to put you on the spot in just the last 20 seconds we've got. The president is going to hold a press conference, we're told, this week. What would be your question, sir?